Meanwhile, I don't know. I grabbed this. This was Rod the Bod, who does a coach's show, apparently. In Carolina, they traded for Mikko Rantanen. He didn't perform particularly well. He was okay, but with a middling production. And then they offered him a lot of money, and he said no. And they said, well, we're probably going to have to trade you. And he said, fine, go ahead. Cool. So Rod the Bod is who you'll hear. You're not going to see his face. You'll get to see a nothing you like watching more than a old radio guy with receding hair and gray beard. There's nothing you'd rather watch or listen to. But this is Rod the Bod talking about kind of his interaction and the Carolina Hurricanes' dealings with Mikko Rantanen.
Interview that really stuck with
There's not been one guy that has left here because they didn't like it here. That was except for Mikko, and he did not like it. When he showed up, he said, "There's 4 teams I'll go play for. Well, you're not one of them." So there's 28 other teams he wasn't going to. And when the better question is, should we have known that before we signed him, right? Or attempted to sign him? You know, Gensel was a totally opposite thing. We had offered him the contract with Matt Dan. He's here, right? But we didn't for whatever reason. That's a different conversation. And all the other guys that walked out of here at free agency is because they got paid a lot more money than we were offering. They all wanted to stay. Right. So Mika was the only one that I've been associated with that said, I don't want to, this is not for me. And I think there's other circumstances on that. It's not because of the hockey. It was because I think his family, it wasn't for him. Mm-hmm. So good. And I appreciate that he let us know that. We probably should have known that before we made the deal. Maybe that changes how we go about things.
Wow. Ooh. I keep thinking about that agent poll. The Carolina's not a popular organization the way they go about their business.
They'll be real effing unpopular if Tom decides he doesn't like Rod the Bod's comments.
He already screwed Rod pretty hard on their last contract.
Rod doesn't care. Well,
that's the thing. Rod was being the nice guy, but he's not getting anywhere near his market value. He's a top 5 coach in the league, in my opinion. You had to grind him there. So if you're grinding the guy that is beloved in the community and is a coach, it's not like it's $12 million, like that, you're grinding him, you're grinding everyone.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things in there. And I saw your face, Rhett, when he said, we'd have had Gensel if we'd have made the offer, but we didn't offer him the money to stay. And then, of course, he kind of doubled down on it. If we'd have known that Mikko Rantanen was going to go to 4 teams and nowhere else, maybe we should have known that before we made the trade. So in a way, some collateral damage there. The GM feels like maybe he's taking some. The owner certainly is taking some because guys have been here. None of them wants to leave, but they go because they don't get paid here. That's my paraphrasing anyway.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of the rep that in that agent's poll was, I guess, uncovered.
There seems like 2 things that could have been accomplished as well. Like if you were interested in Gensel, you knew free agency was coming, so you could offer him the contract.
And I think that's why they were hyper aggressive this year. They're like, we'll go early on Rantanen.
Yeah, but again, you went early on Rantanen after without knowing.
Yeah,
Rantanen had no interests,
or at least on some bad intel, or because
how hard's the intel? Come on, let's be real. How hard's the intel for the agent to get the word out to the teams? Like if you're trading for Rantanen, you're like you don't and wanting to sign him, you're not talking to the agent saying, would he sign here? Like
I think there was a conversation allowed to happen, and I might be wrong on this. It's been a lot of reporting on this that trying to match it all together, that Carolina did either via Colorado or to the agent ask about interest. And at that point, I'm sure the player says, look, like I'm shell shocked here. I don't even think I didn't think I was getting traded. Like we're open to things. Let's give it a try. Like I'm not promising now. I've been there once a year my whole career. That's it. I don't know anything about the fucking market.
I'm talking prior to trading for him.
Yeah. I don't know. Elliot had some interesting stuff.
I was going to say, do you have intel on this, or are you just kind of?
I've listened. Elliot's done a lot of stuff on this, obviously, and they did the Friday and the Monday. Like there's been a lot of content on Rantanen in the last few weeks, and there was just a thought that the agency almost thought Colorado was trying to use this as leverage. Like, well, if you don't like it here, like, would you go here for this much money? And they're like, sure. Like, you're not actually trading us. We've got 2 months to sort this out. But
yeah, I would think
more
if
than that, if you're Tulski, right?
if
Or
if
just
you're
happy with
Rantanen,
the place.
it's like, yeah, no, I think, yeah, I'd be happy with Carolina. You might get that out there if you think that's going to grease the wheels on your Colorado extension,
Exactly.
and that's where you want to stay.
And that was kind of the feel of what Elliot was saying.
So let's go to that point. Let's assume then maybe that all Rantanen ever wanted was the big offer to stay in Colorado.
Yes,
Now
I believe
he's
that's true.
right. So who's to blame then? Is it because Colorado clearly dealt him, it would seem, either not knowing or knowing that's where he wanted to be?
I have no problem with what Colorado did, because they're looking at having to pay Cale Makar. I have no idea what Cale Makar makes in 2 years, because the cap's going to be like 104 million or 114 the year after, and he's the best defenseman we've seen in our lives. Like, is he a $22 million player? Is he 16? Is it somewhere like, we have no idea. Yeah. And so I think the math they did was, we can't afford to not be able to bring back Cale Makar, because we got a little too hot and heavy with Rantanen, who we really like, but we also understand there's a lot of Nathan McKinnon shrapnel that he gets to tuck into the net. And so they made the calculated bet they could get similar or 80% of the production with Natchez. What they're hoping will be somewhere between half and 3/4 the cost. It's a very cold, calculated asset management play. It is not a, hey, he's a career guy. It's the only jersey. We drafted him. I remember it's very cold and calculated, but I think it's smart. And I know they took a lot of bullets day one. It was like, well, hang on, fellas. Who knows the player the best? The Abs. And Natchez doing his part this year. He whined last year, big numbers in Carolina. You watch him play with that team. He flies. He fits in great. They're not missing a beat.
Yeah. Poor Rantanen, the real loser in the end.
Or not.
Having to live in Dallas and make 12 million.
We'll know who the real loser is short term when these two teams play in round one, because it's going to be an absolute war. And both teams have revamped their teams considerably here. They're on a collision course because Winnipeg should win the Central, and Minnesota's already fallen into a wild card. I don't know how they wouldn't play each other in round one, and that will be absolute just popcorn.
Rhett,
team.
We heard what Rod the Bod had to say there. That feels open. I don't know that I would expect to hear that from Rod, because it's kind of a shot against his owner, and it's kind of a shot against his general manager. And maybe the general manager's hands are tied, and he just has to. I mean, for Tulski, maybe he's just got to do whatever Tom Dundon says to do.
That seems to be true.
But it's kind of a shot across.
It does sound that way. I think so, doesn't it? Like, I guess you could just say, well, he's just being honest, and he doesn't mean it in a negative way, and it's just being upfront, and he's fine with everything. But I also got to think that for a guy like that, he wants to win. Like, he's below market value. He wants to be there, and you give him credit for that part of it. But when you skimp on his contract and save money, then he's like, why are we not putting it towards the guys that can help us get it over the top? Rantanen. Like, and that's how it's got to be feeling there, where it's like, I'm doing everything I can. And we're having good success, and we're real close, and you won't give us the pieces to make get the job finished.
They changed GMs. Why? Do we remember? Because Don Waddell took a lateral move to make more money.
Oh, I think
we don't see GMs leave teams to take a GM job in a different market unless there's massive drama like we saw here with Treliving, Sutter, and I imagine to some degree the owner. Carolina doesn't pay the people. And so Don Waddell knew if he was going to get GM money, he had to go to another market. And Eric Tulski's been a guy who started writing about hockey on the internet and climbed all his way up the ranks. He's got like 40 patents. He's a savant, but he's not a typical front-facing, speak to the media face of an organization. You know, his personal interactions are not his strength. Engineering things that need trademarks probably are his strength. Their GM literally walked to another team, and they've been to the Final Four twice in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Like, they're in a window to win. Doesn't that tell you everything about how Tom Dundon treats his people? He grinds Rob Brind'Amour. And the GM literally left to take the same position elsewhere to make more money.
And before that, Billy Peters might have kept that job. He was grinding on him too, wasn't he? And Billy Peters, I think, was like, I don't need this.
The Flames and the Carolina Hurricanes, after the World Championships, which were living, had Peters, worked on a deal to get Peters here, even though there was term left on his Carolina deal.
Also, and how deep does it go? Well, it goes deep because it was not long after Dundon took over the team. Both the radio and TV play-by-play guys were either shown the door or left. Chuck Caton, Hall of Fame broadcaster, was fired, and John Forsland is now the play-by-play voice in Seattle.
Yeah,
so
Trip Tracy too, right? Because he ended up moving somewhere.
Is Tripp not there anymore? I thought maybe he was still there. Anyway, but it's not. It's the whole way through. Come on, Tom. Can't you see?
But you know what?
Can't see what you're doing here? There's a way to treat people.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of why I don't put a ton of this on. Like that agent poll was very revealing to me, and maybe I'm putting too much stock in it, but people that represent players don't like dealing with Carolina. Period. Stop.
Agents are right.
Oh, I know.
They also have to rank. You know what I mean? Somebody's
like they'll find a reason to bitch and why they're always right and everyone's wrong. I could be an agent. I'm so disillusioned.
I told you guys we should start an agent,
but they have to rank them, and the ranks are what's published. That is the team they dislike the most. In many different ways, they phrased questions, but you wouldn't expect.
Well, yeah, and there it might be a good thing that agents find it hard to deal with. If an agent thinks, "Oh, these guys are great. I love dealing with these guys," they'd be, "Oh, I'm not sure that's a good place to be either."
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.